Okay, the air filter mod is done. So we're going to give her a test today, and we're also going to start developing our chain a little bit more. But as you see, what in the world do I have maple syrup in the shop for? Well, the gentleman right here, Reds, Tillers, and More, he sent us some syrup to use at the event here at the end of July. He's supplying the maple syrup for breakfast. So, a kind gentleman out there is helping us out. I don't know if he makes it. Here it is. Helderberger Haven Farm, 100% natural maple syrup in New York. But do yourself a little searching. Right here he is on YouTube. Look, he's got a YouTube channel. Reds, Tillers, and More. And look at that, he's standing there with a little rototiller. I added his little sticker to the fridge, and I think whenever I get stickers in from different folks, I'm going to start adding them to the fridge. I think that's a good spot for them. But what do you say we get back onto this? We're going to give this saw a run, and we're going to see how the air filter mod performs. This is the same chain we ran last time, so we'll be able to compare it. But I'm fairly certain this chain is flat out going to suck, and we need to go with something else. So it's time to start moving on to the next step. That's developing our chain, sprocket, whatever we got to do to make this saw as fast as we can. What do you say we throw this syrup in the fridge? That way it's ready to go for our event and get to work here. Now, if any of you other folks out there are interested in donating in some form or another towards the event, I am not going to complain, not one so bit. If you know what I mean. I am, I'm trying to make the food free right now. I'm trying to get your free drinks for free. So, yeah, I don't mind a couple of donations here and there. Even little things like that, by supplying the maple syrup, they help out a lot. And, so I appreciate it a lot. So if any of you are interested in throwing in a little donation of some sort, sponsorship or something, I have a PayPal if you just want to send $1, just hit me up, homelightsmitty@gmail.com, and we'll get you all the information you need to send in the donation. Now, another way you can help is I do have memberships on the channel. I very rarely talk about it, but they are available. The cheapest one is like $1, which is basically like $1 a month. I do not typically make members only videos. It's just something there that you can help out if you choose to do so. Okay? So there we go. Let's go ahead and give it a run so you can see what the air filter modifications did. I've already ran it, so I kind of know. I'll be able to throw up, in fact, I'll start off with that. We'll throw up a comparison of like the before and after. We'll throw that up first, and then we'll come in and start with dialing in this chain. So let's go ahead and do that. Alrighty, so now let's go ahead and start working on this chain. We're going to make probably 1 or 2 cookies on each variation. We're going to sharpen it up on different angles and try different things. And we're going to try to squeeze it all into that little piece of wood. So because I'm down into the situation I'm in, it's not going to be a perfect scenario, but I'm going to be getting kind of an idea of if I'm headed in the right direction. You know what I mean? So let's go ahead and move on with this. But as we go, we'll end up doing this again, but on a little bit better situation with the wood and everything. We're just kind of developing right now, so we don't need to be perfect with this. We're just kind of looking for that feel, you know. We'll start fine-tuning it later on something, you know, a piece of wood set up better than this. So there we go. It cuts good. Here's our chips. You know, it produces a good chip, but something about it just doesn't feel right. We're gonna try something else. All right, so the sharpening we just saw, I had a 55 degree on the head tilt here, and I'm actually gonna take it to 50 this time. And then everything else, I'm gonna leave the same. So it's gonna be a 50 degree up here, 35 degree across the top plate, and the 10 degree chain tilt will stay in as well. We are going to try this and see if that changes anything. Now, I will tell you from experience, this sharpening, as soon as you start getting to these angles, do not expect it to stay sharp very long. You probably won't even get a full tank of fuel out of it until you start noticing a difference. So I'd say 10 cuts maybe, 10, 12 cuts is about the point you're going to start noticing a difference. So something to consider there whenever you're playing with your sharpening. The more aggressive we get, the quicker she's going to dull. Now, here, let me show you something else. So whenever I adjust these angles on the grinder, it's basically like we're playing with an axe, okay? You know, the edge of the axe. You know how you hear some profiles work better for splitting, some profiles work better for chopping, and so forth. That's kind of what we're playing with here. And the power you produce, basically, like, imagine swinging your axe. The harder you can swing harder or you can swing lighter. The power also affects your profile. So if we had a profile that was really wide, okay, they work great for splitting. But on woods that require a lot of penetration in order to get it to pop, a wider profile may not work as well. Whereas some woods prefer a little thinner profile to do it. You know what I mean? But that's kind of what we're playing with here. And we're basically looking for that sweet spot where we can get the corner to dig in and pop the tooth with pop the chip. So what we're looking for is we're trying to get it set up to where the corner of the tooth digs in and pops the chip with very little effort. Right now, the angles we got on this, it feels like it's doing a good job, but it feels like it's taking more effort than it should to get it to pop the chip. You know what I mean? So it's almost like more of a chopping type of axe versus a splitting axe. You know what I mean? That's kind of what it feels like. Now, the angle I'm actually going to is going to cause it to probably penetrate a little more. And the idea here is maybe we can get it to penetrate a little further and use the wider part of the tooth. So you imagine the corner, maybe we can get it to penetrate just a little further to where the wider part of the tooth pops the chip, creating a larger chip in the end. That's what I'm hoping happens with this. But it's probably going to take more torque to pull it. So as we get into this, we might notice RPM of the saw in the cut dropping. And in the end, we're hoping to get something fast, regardless of what the RPM is, because in the end, it's just what really matters is how fast it is through the cut, regardless of what the RPM is. And that's kind of what we're looking for here. This saw has a whole lot of torque, and we're going to try to use some of that torque to create a faster chain. So, yeah, let's try this out. And I think we might even try out another chain after this, and I'll probably go ahead and sharpen up another chain. But we'll sharpen it up at my normal firewood grind that I typically do. And we'll see kind of how it compares, because it's never been like the fast grind for me. It's just been a really good work grind. It stays sharp probably a good 2 tanks of fuel typically, as long as I'm not into anything really dirty. So, you know, it's a really good grind for firewood work. It stays sharp, you know, long time and everything, and it cuts pretty well, or fairly decent. So we're probably going to try that chain right after this. So I think what we'll do is we'll sharpen this up, we'll give it a test, and then I'll go ahead and sharpen up another chain, and then we'll just do those 2 chains right back to back so we can go ahead and do these tests. Alrighty, so here we go. We're going to try the more aggressive 50-degree head tilt angle with a 35-degree top plate, 10-degree tilt function being used on this. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, the tilt of this will move, as well as this moves, and I can also change the way it attacks the I don't even want the angle of attack, I guess you can call it, or something. But I can change this, and it's a 10-degree. So here is 0, this is 10-degree, and this is 10-degree the other way. And it depends on which way you have this turned, which side of the tooth you're sharpening, as to which way you have this set. So that's what we're talking about here, and we're going to try it out and see what happens. These angles that I'm talking about here, I've already tried it on long bars, and it sucks. Anything past 20 inches, it's pointless, and I find that it actually works best on shorter balls, and I actually find it works best on shorter bars, such as 20-inch, and I find it's actually better on a 16, and that's because your body weight is a little further above the, or just somehow or another, the way you're handling the saw on a really short bar, you handle it different on a 16-inch bar than you do a 2-foot bar. You know what I mean? Your weight of control, your leverage, I guess you could say, your leverage point on a long bar is out there further away from you, and it's easier to control on a short bar real tight to the wood. So that's kind of what I'm talking about whenever I say it's better to run on, or it's better on a short bar. So yeah, hey, let's go ahead and get this done. Enough rambling. Let's get this sharpened. Okay, so now I got it all sharpened up, but I discovered a new issue with that chain we were running. So I discovered that it felt like a 25,000 Raker was too deep, and I was going to take it to less. But I discovered, you see, your Raker height really affects on how hard you can dig in and force it through the cut. So if you're running a shallow Raker, when you push it and try to force it through the cut, it's going to feel more like you're hitting a wall. Like if you're almost going to hit a wall, and you're not going to be able to, it kind of limits on how much you can force it through the cut. So I am going to take this back to a 25,000th Raker, because I want to be able to force it as hard as I want, and I want it to just eat more wood as I push, regardless of what happens to the RPM. So that's kind of my goal here, is to just make this thing eat a lot of wood. And so I'm going to go ahead and get this set up to a 25,000th Raker now. And I'm going to show you what the tooth looks like, because I did something that you're not supposed to do. So stick around. So this is what the tooth is looking like. And you notice how I blued the corner? This is something they tell you you're not supposed to do. It's like a big no-no. Well, if you happen to do that, you'll notice that if you try to come in and hand file later, you just can't. It's just too hard. The file just skates across the tooth. It like it hardens it or something. Well, maybe I can use that to my advantage. I mean, I only ever grind with this chain, so we're putting a blue corner on it, hitting it just right to blue that corner. Will that temper the corner and help it hold an edge longer? That's kind of the question here. And we're going to try it. We're going to see what happens. So, yeah. What do you say we put this on the saw and give it a test run? All right, so now I got to sharpen up. Look, the chain hanging on the wall. You can tell I just dug one off the wall. This is a different chain, same brand and everything. It's identical. It's just I'm going to sharpen this one differently. This is going to get my typical firewood type of setup. I will tell you, this last one we just ran is the best one feeling wise. There's something about those angles that works really good on the higher horsepower or the better performing saws. So we're going to see how it compares to just my typical firewood type of grind, which is a 60-degree head tilt. Well, now we're going to bump it back to a 60 head tilt, because this is what I use for my firewood work. Long bars, everything. It seems to work really good for firewood. It's just, I typically set my firewood chains up at 25-degree top plate on like stock saws and so forth. And then the ported ones, I run at a 30-degree top plate. So that's really the only difference. So since this one's ported, we will set it on a 30-degree top plate, 60-degree head tilt, and we don't use the chain tilt feature at all. It is on 0. So we're going to sharpen this one up at these angles. We'll make our 2 cuts and see how it does. But as a bonus, I'm thinking one of those chains back there swinging on the wall you just saw is a C83 chain. So might as well stick it on and make 2 cuts with it as well, and see how all these chains kind of compare. Now the C83 is known to perform best after you make a Raker adjustment to the chain. The one hanging on the wall, I've never done that to, so it will not be at its fullest potential. It's just like a straight out of the box C83, and it probably has, I don't know, 8, 10 cuts on the chain probably already. So it's not going to be at its prime. So just keep that in mind whenever we do this. But let me get this sharpened up. We'll throw it on the wood, and then we'll run that C83. And then the rest of this video is going to be comparing everything, and then we'll kind of see what our results are. Alrighty? Okay, so you know how I keep mentioning how that sharpening doesn't work so good for long bars? The reason is, for some reason, when you put that 10-degree tilt on there, it makes the side plate like, oh, I don't know, could you say it's sharper? It changes the side plate a bit. And what happens is it makes the side plate cut so well that you can actually push it sideways, and it'll easily cut through the wood. And what it does is it makes your saw very easily go crooked in the cut, either direction. And if you apply pressure just a little off one side or the other, you'll turn your saw sideways, right in the wood. I've showed this on video before. You can make an S cut in the wood. And it has to do with how well or how sharp the side plate angle is. And that's why it doesn't work so well on long bars, is because longer bars, you typically, because of having the everything longer, the weight of your way you apply pressure and stuff, it's a little different. And especially whenever if you're running a long bar, a lot of times you're dogging it in. And because the dogs are offset from the bar a little bit usually, some saws have it on both sides. But usually you got one set of dogs on one side, and because of that little bit of difference, it'll cause your saw to pull sideways in the cut. I mean, this grind here seems to be just a better feeling grind for longer bars on firewood situations. I mean, you're not racing a long bar. If you are, you better be cutting some big wood in your races, because, you know, if you're racing 10 inches, 8 inches of wood or whatever, you don't want to have a whole bunch of bars sticking out there. That's a lot of extra weight you got to deal with and everything. So, you run shorter bars in the races. But, you kind of got to keep that in mind whenever I talk about this stuff. Alrighty? Okay, so now I'm going to put the C83 on. Again, I have not done a Raker adjustment to this chain. It's straight out of the box. It's got like 10 cuts on it or so. So it's not a 100% perfect scenario, but it'll give us an idea. Now, this last chain, my firewood chain, definitely felt like the slowest out of them all, but I've ran it enough to know that they did is a great work chain. I'll be curious to see how it compares. Let's get this C83 done. Okay, so the C83, it had more bite to it, more grab. Boy, can you tell? It's 90 with a whole lot of humidity. I'm sweating. But yeah, the C83 definitely had more grab to it. So it felt more aggressive. It actually felt less forgiving than what I think might be my fastest chain. So my chain, it was smoother than the C83, but I don't know if it was going to be faster, really. I might need to develop it just a little bit further in order to get it to outperform a C83 chain. Now, I've been kind of holding out. I want to buy a roll of chain, and I want to start with something that's really high quality that I like. Because, you know, once you start sharpening, it's your grind, you know what I mean? And C83 is definitely going to be the one I go with because it's the chain itself is lighter. So the stuff that I've been sharpening on is steel RS, and it's physically heavier than the C83. So I'm definitely going to go with the C83. It is a lighter weight chain. And, you know, once you start grinding on it, you know, it's your sharpening. But I think I'm definitely going to go with the C83. In fact, C83 is about as close to a square chain as you're going to get straight out of the box, which might be why it is so quick. Because if you look at it real close, the whole corner of it is all done up like a square chain. So, you know, we're going to have to kind of keep that in consideration. But I think, so this is the chain. I think if I go in there, I might sharpen this. We might do another session like this. What do you think? And see if we can get that chain to perform even faster yet. What do you say we go out here and make a quick test cut on some oak? Let's see how it performs on a piece of oak. So we'll put this chain that I sharpened up. This is the one that felt the best. I don't know if it's faster. You know, I'm just kind of going by feel at this point. I won't know until it's edited. But I'm going to throw this in a piece of oak, see how it performs in a piece of oak. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. So while I'm switching things around here, I figure I might mention that I've noticed that square chain is done at a 45-degree angle. And I'm wondering if I need to figure out a way to sharpen round chain at a 45-degree angle in order to make it as, you know, faster. That's what this whole thing is about, is to see if I can get a round chain at 45 degrees to perform well. And just by looking at the C83 chain, I would not be surprised if it's sharpened at a 45 degree. It definitely felt like it. So that's kind of our end goal here, but we're taking it in steps. We're going to get there eventually. But right now, we're just going to take this chain out. This is my favorite one so far. It's very forgiving. Felt pretty quick. And we're going to see how she does on a piece of oak. So, yeah. Let's see what happens here. Alrighty. Okay, so that felt very nice in the oak. So I'm curious. I'm wondering if we kind of are working our way towards a round chain that performs a little closer to a square chain, because it's starting to pull closer to what a square chain pulls like. So round chain, none of my round chains have ever had as much pull as I was able to put into a square chain. Or the way it felt different, if you know what I mean. And I'm wondering if we're starting to get closer. So I think next time we're gonna try to experiment. So what are we at now? We're at 50 degrees? Yeah, we're at 50 degrees. So next time I think we'll try a 45 and a 40 degree angle on this round chain and see if we can get it to perform well. And I want to try to take it a little further and see if we can just get it to just plane out fast. But we're going to lose durability along this process. So there's a good firewood chain that has the durability and stuff, or there's a fast chain that there ain't squat for durability. You know what I mean? We're going to try to figure it out. So we're getting closer, I can tell you. Right now, that is feeling really well on oak. And I think we're going to be touching the heels of C83 at this point. So we're at least close, or it might even be faster. I think we're performing very close to C83 right now. I think part of it would depend on the different types of wood we're cutting in. So if we were in oak, this might perform better than C83 because of just how freaking smooth that stuff is. I'm not going to throw the C83 back on and do another test just because, I've done enough already. But I think that it's going to be a toss-up between this chain and C83 depending on the speed or the species of wood we're cutting. And our goal here is to try to get faster. So we'll see how she goes. Alrighty, so we'll catch you on the next one. Later.